This next story might make you feel like we're living in the twilight zone. Microsoft reported a worldwide tech outage overnight that led to massive disruptions in airlines around the globe, banks, hospitals, and various other businesses. Delta Airlines announced just this morning that it is grounding its planes, keeping its global flight schedule paused.
Well, we now know that the global glitch was brought on by cybersecurity company CrowdStrike. Just watch that stock plummet, which says a software update caused the malfunctions. CrowdStrike CEO George Kurtz said the problem has been isolated and fixed. Here is how it came out across on the Today Show.
We know what the issue is. We're resolving and have resolved the issue now. It's recovering systems that are out there. And essentially, as you've talked about in the statement I put out, is the system was sent an update, and that update had a software bug in it and caused an issue with the Microsoft operating system. And we identified this very quickly and remediated the issue.
Kurtz was adamant that nothing nefarious was at play. While the issue has been dealt with and businesses are starting to come back online, it'll be hours, if not days, before everything and everyone is back on track. I do not envy him in this moment, because telling me that it was just a software update bug, but an entire airline is not able to fly because of that, right? And this is the tech CEOs and their universe and ours is just so different, right? There's the idea of they call it downstream impact. I'm like, that is the only impact that matters. Can I use your product and still live my life? If the answer is no, your product's not good enough right now. So I don't envy him, but it does also point out that we are absolutely not prepared for the zombie apocalypse.
No, well, we're certainly not prepared for that. But we're also just so reliant on these things, right? And so something goes wrong, apparently with a software update. I mean, we'll see if that actually is the case or not.
Oh, I like that skepticism there. Thank you.
Well,
yes.
I'm generally skeptical of tech explanations of things. But it is just like, it's like pulling the pin out of everything. Everything just collapses because somebody screwed up a software update. We have, people at the Hill struggling to get back from the Republican National Convention because their flights are grounded. I have friends, talking about how they were messed up in various ways. I don't typically use Microsoft. Maybe I can't say that on air. Maybe I'll get punished for something. But it is just this example of how much hinges upon all of these programs.
Well, and I know our friend Robbie would not agree with this as the answer. So I appreciate
government
that.
Regulation, Nayyera.
Well,
that's the solution.
I'm just going to say that the idea that Microsoft went through an entire lawsuit for the fact that it needed to break up different parts because it was monopolizing access to the internet and information. And this is why you don't want one thing running everything. It's why we don't want government running everything also, to be fair. But in the public space, who's responsible for making sure Microsoft isn't running everything?
Right. Well, and those arguments about the public space, I think, they increasingly intersect with debates about tech all the time. It's like the Twitter now X argument, right? Which is that the public square? Do people have a right to be on there? Or is it a private company and the proprietors of that private company can decide who gets to say what and where the lines are drawn? So the sort of fusion of the issues around big tech and the issues around the public space, I do think are really interesting.
And it's going to be increasingly more evident in our day-to-day, right? Like we talk about social media influence on the development of young people. And it's not about, let me be very clear, it's not about the content, but about, do you have choices? And we keep thinking we're making choices, but algorithms, the impact and the dopamine push, these are not active choices we're making anymore. I mean, Delta, and even various government agencies, they sign up, they get a package, and it's like, oh, look how easy Microsoft made everything for us. Right. Look how easy Google made everything for us. So I think part of it is tech has made something so much easier, but we don't know all of the stuff underlying it. And so when something goes, oops, we're sitting here like, what happened to my life?
Sure, and so many different places reliant on the same company and the same product. I mean, I think that really is where the difficulty hinges, because everything about the digital world is so vast. There's this attempt to have common cords or common threads that tie it together. And suddenly those cords get knotted in some way and you're in a world of pain, and it has a real effect on people's day-to-day lives.
I will say though, Europe having done the common cord, the C thing, I'm over replacing my phone charger every upgrade. I am for literally the common cord that we're talking about for chargers, but Europe has handled the tech piece of this very differently in terms of their giving consumer choices and forcing that's something companies tell us about the cookies that we're accepting, our personal privacy and our information and what we're giving up, the idea of informed consent. Like we have opted for ease with technology, and where in healthcare we've demanded more informed consent, we haven't, as a community in the United States, demanded the same of tech in a way the Europeans have. I think that's a lot of where this is going to go. But in the meantime, what's the backup plan?
Yeah.
Like what do you do when the internet disappears?
Right. And I think one of the interesting things will be whether Congress presses CrowdStrike in particular on this outage, whether they have to come to Capitol Hill and try to explain themselves, or whether this will just be like, oh, well, these things happen, we'll on to the next thing.
Well, I will just throw in this as a little aside that Congress would need to itself understand how a lot of this technology works. I still have seared into my brain that the members of the Senate questioning Facebook CEO and talking about Twitter because they literally could not understand the difference between the two.
Sure.
And so that idea of having members of Congress who actually represent us and our values and even our current technology and our experiences with them would be helpful in this conversation, Niall.
Certainly would. On that point, we'll leave it there for the moment, and we will be back with more Rising after this.